Marin Center for Independent Living, and speaking for myself, we are so excited to be here today working with you and talking about the issue of our time at Marin Center for Independent Living, which is how we, as a disability-led service organization, support our community of individuals with access and functional needs during this period of climate change, natural disaster, wildfire, and just overall emergency response.
Today, we have a great team at MCIL, and they have put together the program to make it very easy for each and every one of you beyond the sound of my voice here and your friends to be empowered, to be powered and prepared. How can we get more information and sign up for Powered and Prepared? You can have a person apply through MCIL. As a community partner, you are welcome to help clients, consumers complete the application and apply online. And if the online application is not accessible, Marin Center for Independent Living staff will help each and every one of you apply.
Marin VOAD, Voluntary Organizations Active in Disaster, is a collaboration of nonprofit organizations, faith-based organizations, other community-based organizations, as well as government agencies. And our mission really is to foster effective service delivery to everybody who is affected by disasters through this collaborative network. So we work with organizations like Marin CIL. We work with organizations all over Marin, and I can get into a little bit of that later. But the idea is, if you are coordinated and you're communicating well with one another, you avoid duplicate services, you're more efficient in your service delivery, and you're more effective. And the organizations that we work with are all of the ones across Marin who work with vulnerable residents and visitors who are most at risk in disaster.
So neighborhood response groups, for those of you who aren't familiar with that, and NRG is the short term, if I slip into that, they were created essentially as a grassroots community organizing tool here in Marin, or at least we have a very effective model here in Marin about 10 years ago. The purpose of an NRG is to acquaint neighbors in small groups with each other and what their needs are and what their resources are. So as we know, if there is a disaster of some kind, particularly the disasters where you would need to shelter in place, so earthquake, power shut off, floods, things like that, as opposed to wildfire where you're going to evacuate, most likely at some point. When you, if there is a disaster, you may well not see a first responder for a couple of days, even depending upon the severity of what's happening more globally. So the best thing is for folks to be able to know at least a half a dozen neighbors, if not a larger group, so that you can be familiar with who might have access and functional needs, who might have resources who could be helpful in that situation.
Just to say something about Firewise, and I live in San Anselmo, a couple years ago, their garage caught on fire at the end of my dead-end street up a hill. And the fire department told the neighbor that called it in to call everybody on the street and have them shelter in place so the fire trucks could come up our one-way, very small, tiny street. And he realized he didn't have anybody's contact information. And so we started organizing and then realized that there are all these neighborhood groups and very organized. And so my little street became part of the Bald Hill Firewise community. And it's really just volunteers who are wanting to stay connected to one another. And also, as you organize, you are able to access resources like free chipper days, for example. And I would just put a plug in for all those of you who are part of either NRG or VOAD or Firewise, that to really include people with disabilities and access and functional needs into your planning.
For people with disabilities and access and functional needs, social isolation is a significant area and really limits one's access to services, support, connection, and emotional and mental health. So I would just say, kind of going back to connecting with your neighbors, just drop off fruit from the garden, or find an excuse to knock on the door, flowers, whatever it is. Those little things are actually really big. Building that connection ahead of time could save someone's life later.